Welcome back, everybody, to day 5 of learning SQL. Today, we're going to be talking about views. Now, views are virtual tables that we can create using a query. And what we can do is we can create these views, and they have a variety of different uses. One, we can just easily reference the view that we created to view the exact table that we built quite easily without having to redo the entire query. Or we could do things like create a specific query and create a view for select information. So for example, let's say we have a members table that has all the information about our members, but let's say we have a specific employee that we only want to share the member's first name, last name, and the date that they joined. We don't want to share any of the other information that exists in the table, like their address and their phone number. What we could do is create a query that only selects that information. Then we can then create a view for that query and then set permissions where that employee could then only view that view table. And that would give them access to just that information. Now, keep in mind when we create a view, we're not actually plucking the information from the tables and storing them somewhere else. We're actually just creating references to the information that exists in those tables and just pulling it from there in a virtual table. There are views that exist where you are actually pulling the information and physically storing it somewhere else. Those are called materialized views, from what I understand. I have yet to explore those, so hopefully we can explore those in a future video and then maybe do some type of fun comparison where we can see if there's a big performance difference in executing our queries based off of having that information from the virtual tables or stored in a new location condensed down. So that might be a fun experiment. We can do that in the future. If you take a look over here, I have a request here that I created to create a view for customer Darren Smith, who has a member ID of 1 that shows all his past bookings. So if you're not familiar with the database that we're working in, we have 3 different tables. We have bookings, facilities, and members for a gym. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a view for customer Darren Smith, who has a member ID of 1 that shows all of his past bookings. We're going to name this view D_Smith, and in the columns, we're going to include his first name, surname, facility name that he booked, and the date that he booked it. So let's go ahead and start building this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and select everything from the cd.bookings table. I'm going to go ahead and run this. And as you can see, we have the facility ID that was booked. We have the member ID of who booked it and the start time. So start time is one of the columns that we're going to want. But we need to go ahead and interjoin to get the actual name of the member who booked the facility first, and then we'll get the facility name. So let's go ahead and move this down. And let's go ahead and first interjoin in. And we'll start with the actual member name first. So we're going to interjoin cd.members. And we're going to do that on cd.bookings.member ID. Set that equal to cd.members.memID. Go ahead and run this. So now you can see that we have each booking paired up with the member ID of the person, and it shows their name. And we can use that to filter out here in the future. And so we're also going to go ahead and say that we want to interjoin in the facility name, which is going to exist in the facilities table. So interjoin cd.facilities on cd.bookings.facilid equals cd.facilities.facilid. Okay, run this again. So now we have the name. And if you take a look over here, after all of this information, we have the facility ID that matches up with the booking, and we have the actual name of the facility that was booked. And we have, like, for example, facility ID there, facility ID there, so we did the interjoin correct. Now, let's go ahead and narrow this down to what we're looking for. First off, we know that we're only going to be working with Darren Smith, and he has a member ID of 1. So let's start first by adding our where statement, where we're going to say where cd.bookings.memID is going to equal 1. So if I go ahead and run this, now you can see that we have Darren Smith only for all of his bookings. Then we can go ahead and just select the columns that we need from all these interjoined tables. So the first column that we want to get is the first name and surname, which is a little bit redundant, right? It's just going to repeat itself across the whole table, but we'll just follow the instructions. So first we're going to say cd.members dot first name, and then cd dot members dot surname. And then we're going to want the facility that was booked. So we have this, the column's labeled name. So cd dot facilities dot name. And then lastly, we're going to want the date that it was booked, which is going to be under the bookings start time. So cd start dot booking dot start time. Run this. cd dot bookings. Set. Yep, forgot an S there. Perfect. Okay, so we have the first name, the surname, the name of the facility, and the start time. Now, this is a bit confusing with the labeling of the columns here. So for cd facility's name, I'm going to say as facility. Run this again. There we go. So now we have first name, surname, facility, start time. This looks really good. I like this table. And let's say in the future that we're going to need to reference this. Darren Smith customer is one of our best customers. You can see that he has a lot of bookings. So let's say in the future we want to reference this table quite often, and maybe we want to give somebody else access to only this information. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to go ahead and create a view. So we're going to say create view cd dot, and we're going to put this in the, let's say we want to actually just put this in the public schema. So we don't even have to put cd. We'll just say create view, and it asks for it to be called dsmith, and then we just say as. So now we're creating view dsmith as the following query. We can go ahead and run it. It says it's successfully been created. And so now if we ever want to reference this table, we can just say select all from d_smith, run this, and there is that beautiful table that we just created. And any new information or any new bookings by Darren Smith will automatically be put into the normal tables that we have set up. And then every time we reference this table, that query will be executed and all that information will be in here. So this is not just pulling the current information, it will be pulling the information that currently exists in the database based off our query. Now also, if we want to go ahead and get rid of this view, we can actually just say drop view d_smith. Go ahead and run that. It's successfully been dropped. And so then if we go back here to our original, you can see that it no longer exists. So that's views. If we create a simple view, very nice, useful tool. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video for day 6.